Changing Faces had everything: silky harmonies, chart-topping hits, and even caught the attention of legends like Prince. But what if I told you their story wasn't the fairy tale it seemed? From rising stars to industry outcasts, this NYC duo faced betrayal, creative clashes, and one devastating missed opportunity that changed everything. How did two of R&B's most promising voices go from dominating the charts to disappearing almost overnight? The truth might shock you, and it all starts with a single phone call that could have rewritten their destiny. So buckle up! This ride is about to get bumpy. Like, subscribe, and let's dig in. Charisse Rose and Cassandra Lucas weren't just another R&B duo. They were a force of nature. Hailing from New York City, these two powerhouse vocalists met at the legendary LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts, the same school that produced icons like Nicki Minaj and Jennifer Aniston. Even back then, their talent was undeniable, and they knew they were destined for greatness. But their journey wasn't easy. They started small, really small, singing backup and grinding through auditions just to get noticed. Cassandra later revealed that it was during their time singing with Sybil that they had a light bulb moment. Why are we backing up other people when we could be center stage? And just like that, Changing Faces was born. What made them stand out wasn't just their voices, it was their decision to stay a duo. At a time when R&B was dominated by groups with flashy, oversized lineups, Charisse and Cassandra chose to keep it simple. No backup singers, no extra members, just the two of them. And while most labels scoffed at the idea, claiming two women won't hold anyone's attention, Changing Faces saw it differently. They doubled down, confident their talent would do the talking. Their big break came in 1993 when they caught the attention of Kenny Smooth Korn, a rising producer who saw something special in them. But what really set them on their path to stardom was their gutsy decision to sing their hearts out on a Manhattan street corner for Craig Kallman, an executive from Big Beat Atlantic Records. That impromptu performance didn't just impress, it blew him away. From there, the duo quickly began working with some of the biggest names in the game. R. Kelly, who was just launching his solo career, immediately recognized their potential. Charisse and Cassandra weren't just singers, they were songwriters, and they co-wrote several tracks that showcased their ability to create songs as smooth and sultry as their vocals. By 1994, they released their debut single, Stroke You Up, produced by R. Kelly. The track was a smash hit, climbing to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and cementing their place as one of the most exciting new acts in R&B. Their debut album went gold, and suddenly, they weren't just two girls from NYC, they were a phenomenon. But even as they climbed the charts, people didn't really understand who they were. The misconception was simple. Changing Faces seemed like an overnight success story, a duo that had it all handed to them. What most people didn't see was the years of hard work, rejection, and the bold choices they made to break into an industry that wasn't ready for them. And just as they were riding high, Prince himself started making calls to find out who these women were. That's when Charisse and Cassandra realized they truly arrived. Only it wouldn't be long before the cracks began to show. Changing Faces weren't just breaking into the R&B scene, they were redefining it. Their success wasn't built on gimmicks or provocative personas. It was their raw talent and undeniable chemistry that set them apart. When their debut single, Stroke You Up, exploded onto the charts, it wasn't just a hit, it was a statement. This was smooth, sultry R&B at its best, and it was proof that Charisse and Cassandra could hold their own in an industry full of heavyweights. The duo followed up with another smash, Foolin' Around, also produced by R. Kelly. Their voices effortlessly blended over the track, creating a signature sound that was both sensual and sophisticated. These weren't just songs, they were anthems for a generation of R&B fans who wanted music that felt intimate, authentic, and timeless. But what truly made Changing Faces stand out was their refusal to conform to industry norms. While other acts leaned heavily on flashy visuals and overtly sexualized branding, Charisse and Cassandra stayed true to their vision. They didn't need shock value to sell records. They let their voices do the talking. Their approach was refreshing, and it resonated with fans who were tired of the same old industry formulas. And then came the ultimate validation, Prince. Yes, the Prince. The iconic artist was reportedly so captivated by their music that he started asking around to find out who they were. Imagine being a relatively new act and finding out that Prince himself is intrigued by you. For Charisse and Cassandra, it was a surreal moment that confirmed they were on the right track. Their debut album, released in 1994, went gold, and Changing Faces were officially a household name. They were riding high with major radio play, a growing fan base, and invitations to collaborate with some of the biggest names in the industry. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. While their music was topping charts, the pressure to maintain their success was mounting. The industry was ruthless, and as quickly as they had risen, the cracks in their foundation began to show. Little did they know, the very system that had propelled them to fame would soon become their biggest obstacle. And as we'll see next, even with their undeniable talent, staying on top in the music industry is never guaranteed. Despite their meteoric rise, the music industry is as unforgiving as it is glamorous. By the late 1990s, Changing Faces was still riding the success of their first two albums, but the cracks were beginning to show. Behind the polished music videos and chart-topping singles was a growing tension, both within the group and with their label. Their sophomore album, All Day, All Night, dropped in 1997 and featured hits like Get Out and a cover of Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. The album went gold in just a few months, solidifying their place as R&B royalty. But even as their star continued to rise, their relationship with their record label was beginning to sour. The industry was shifting, and Changing Faces found themselves competing with a flood of new talent. Their label, Atlantic Records, was overloaded with powerhouse artists like Brandy and Aaliyah, big names that commanded most of the attention and resources. Cassandra later revealed in interviews that they often felt like they were being overlooked despite their success. The turning point came with their third album, Visit Me, released in 2000. On paper, it had all the ingredients of a hit. Production from R. Kelly, standout tracks like Visit Me and Come Over, and their signature vocal chemistry. But instead of propelling them to the next level, the album fizzled out. Poor promotion and a lack of support from the label left it dead on arrival. To make matters worse, tragedy struck in 2001 when Aaliyah passed away in a plane crash. In the aftermath, her version of the song Come Over, which had been shelved by the label, was released as a single and became a posthumous hit. For Changing Faces, it was a devastating blow. Their version of the song had barely made a ripple, and now it was completely overshadowed. The frustration boiled over. Cassandra and Charisse weren't just dealing with the label's lack of support, they were also clashing with each other. Creative differences began to surface, and their once unbreakable bonds started to fray. According to Cassandra, the duo had grown apart creatively, and the constant battles with the label only made things worse. By the early 2000s, it was clear that the magic that had once defined Changing Faces was fading. Their third album had been a commercial disappointment. Their label seemed more focused on other artists, and the duo was struggling to stay united. For fans, it was heartbreaking to see such a talented group lose momentum. But for Charisse and Cassandra, the struggles were only beginning. As the pressure mounted, the bond between Charisse and Cassandra, once the foundation of their success, began to crack. The duo was no longer on the same page creatively, and their frustrations with the music industry only deepened the divide. Cassandra would later admit in interviews that their relationship became strained, not because they didn't care about each other, but because the constant battles with their label and the struggles to stay relevant took a toll. One of the key sources of tension was the lack of control they had over their music and careers. Both women had entered the industry with a vision for what they wanted Changing Faces to be, a powerful duo that could rise above industry gimmicks. But as their label continued to prioritize other artists, their creative ambitions were sidelined. Cassandra spilled the tea in an interview saying, "We were promised a lot of things, but when it came time for those promises to be fulfilled, nothing ever happened." The final blow came after the release of their third album, Visit Me. The lack of promotional support from their label meant the album was practically dead on arrival. To make matters worse, their track Come Over was overshadowed by Aaliyah's posthumous version, leaving Charisse and Cassandra feeling like their work was being buried. Cassandra described the experience as disheartening, saying, "We worked so hard on that album and it felt like no one even cared." The creative tension between the two reached its peak during discussions about their future. Charisse was ready to move on from the struggles with the label, but Cassandra wasn't ready to let go of the dream just yet. In an interview with R&B Junkie Official, Cassandra revealed that she and Charisse had very different visions for the group's next steps. "We started to have different ideas about where we wanted to go. It wasn't personal, but we just couldn't agree," she said. Eventually, the duo decided to take a break, hoping that some time apart might help them refocus. But as the months turned into years, it became clear that a reunion wasn't in the cards. Charisse later admitted that their split wasn't just about creative differences, it was also about self-preservation. "We needed to step away for our own sanity. The industry can chew you up and spit you out, and we didn't want to let it break us completely," she said. By the mid-2000s, Changing Faces had effectively disappeared from the music scene. Fans were left wondering what had happened to the duo that had once dominated the R&B charts. And while both women would go on to pursue solo projects, their time as Changing Faces seemed to be over. After years of silence, fans were finally given a glimmer of hope in 2009. Out of nowhere, a previously unheard track titled Crazy Love surfaced online, sparking rumors of a Changing Faces reunion. Charisse and Cassandra hinted at plans for a comeback, teasing a new album that was supposed to drop in the spring of 2012. For loyal fans, it was the moment they had been waiting for, a chance to see the duo reclaim their place in the R&B spotlight. But the comeback didn't go as planned. The album never materialized, and by 2013, their attempt to reignite their careers had all but fizzled out. They did manage to release a single titled Hate Love, but without the backing of a major label, the song struggled to gain traction. Charisse and Cassandra were footing the bill for the production and promotion themselves, and the financial strain only added to the challenges they faced. Charisse later revealed in an interview with Marie Johnson that making the music video for Hate Love was a breaking point. "We were putting all our money into this project and it just wasn't hitting the way we hoped," she said. At some point, Charisse decided she couldn't keep pouring money into a comeback that didn't seem to be resonating. She tried to communicate this to Cassandra, but the conversation didn't go as planned. "I told her, let me know when you're ready to work again, but the vibe was just off," Charisse explained. Meanwhile, Cassandra was pursuing her own path. She founded CRC Music, her own label, and in 2019, she released a solo album titled Long Way Home. During the pandemic, she even took courses at Harvard to expand her knowledge and skills, showing that her drive and ambition hadn't faded. Charisse, on the other hand, stayed connected to her musical roots through live performances and smaller projects. While she didn't completely rule out a reunion, she acknowledged that the relationship between her and Cassandra wasn't what it used to be. They still referred to each other as sisters, but any hopes of a full-fledged comeback as Changing Faces seemed unlikely. Despite their best efforts, the duo's attempt to recapture the magic of their earlier years fell short. Without the backing of a major label and facing an ever-changing music industry, they couldn't regain the momentum they once had. It was a harsh reminder that in the music world, even the most talented artists can struggle to adapt when the spotlight fades. The story of Changing Faces is a bittersweet reminder of how challenging the music industry can be, even for the most talented artists. Despite their incredible vocal abilities, groundbreaking hits, and industry accolades, Charisse and Cassandra's journey shows that talent alone isn't always enough to guarantee lasting success. Timing, support, and a bit of luck often play a significant role in determining who stays on top. Their legacy, however, is undeniable. Changing Faces proved that R&B could be both sultry and sophisticated. They weren't about flashy gimmicks or controversy. They let their voices and music speak for themselves. Tracks like Stroke You Up, Foolin' Around, and G-Chi-Ti-To-You-Ti remain classics that defined 90s R&B and continue to be celebrated by fans. But their story also highlights a broader issue in the music industry. The way talented acts are often overshadowed by shifting trends, internal politics, and the sheer competitiveness of the business. Groups like Changing Faces, Allure, and Intro all had the talent, the connections, and even the hits, but they couldn't maintain their momentum in an ever-evolving industry. For Changing Faces, the lack of consistent label support and internal creative differences became insurmountable obstacles. In interviews, Cassandra and Charisse have both spoken about the emotional toll their journey took on them, the constant push and pull of the industry, the promises that were never kept, and the pressure to outdo their previous successes all contributed to their eventual split. Yet, despite the hardships, both women have continued to pursue their passions, proving that their love for music hasn't faded. For fans, Changing Faces will always hold a special place in the history of R&B. They represented an era when vocal talent and meaningful lyrics reigned supreme. And while their time in the spotlight may have been fleeting, their music has stood the test of time. Changing Faces' journey is one of triumph, challenges, and lessons. They rose to fame with undeniable talent and unforgettable hits, but their story also serves as a cautionary tale about the music industry's highs and lows. Despite their struggles, their impact on R&B is undeniable. They showed us that you don't need to follow the crowd to create something timeless. You just need authenticity, passion, and a willingness to take risks. So, what do you think? Are Changing Faces one of the most underrated R&B acts of the 90s? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories of your favorite artists.